Hello everyone. Today I want to share with all of you some ideas about improving your quasi-experimental study without a control group. The big idea of any experimental study is to determine the effectiveness of the intervention in changing the dependent variables. The golden rule of experimental study is to have a control group. However, there are two main challenges in having a control group. The first one is to have two groups of subjects with the same characteristics. This, of course, depending on your dependent variables and the construct of these variables. This could be a challenge if you want to use matching group design. Another challenge is the ability to randomize your subjects and to allocate them into experimental and control groups. In education research, sometimes it's not possible to randomize two classes of students if you want to study the effectiveness of a method of teaching. In management studies, you might not be able to randomize two groups of subjects if they are located in two different geographical locations. So in short, it could be practical reasons that you are not able to randomize your subjects. So what can you do about this? There are two possible ways to overcome the weaknesses of a single group design. The first way is to use mixed method design. You need to incorporate not only pre-test, post-test measures, but time series design and/or some kind of qualitative design. Another way is to use multiple measures in measuring the dependent variables in order to determine the changes. However, these measures must be theoretically sound and valid in its construct in measuring the dependent variables. Here is an illustration of a quasi-experimental mixed method design. Time series data are used in addition to pre-test and post-test measures. Let's take an example of a study on employees' motivation. The pre-test and post-test will measure the employees' motivation to work, while time series data could be measuring punctuality of employees' attendance. The assumption here is a motivated employee will be punctual to his or her workplace. So can punctuality reflect employees' motivation? If yes, then the changes in the time series data will reflect the employee's motivation that is measured in the pre-test post-test. So you need to ensure the construct validity of the measures used in the pre-test post-test with the time series data. They must be grounded in theory. Another example here will be the incorporation of qualitative design. Going back to the previous example, you could incorporate, for example, daily reflection by the employees on their personal social media in order to understand their work experience of the day. These qualitative data could provide an understanding of employees' motivation over the intervention period. When you incorporate multiple design into your study, you will have multiple measures not only to interpret but to understand how the intervention affects your dependent variables. These measures, if changes are consistent, will determine the causality of your intervention on your dependent variables. In medical science, for example, the medical professionals will need to carry out a few tests before they can confirm their diagnosis on the patient. So more measures can be good if they are theoretically sound in measuring the dependent variables. These are two reference books that I found very useful in designing a quasi-experimental study. The book by Few and Hall gives an insight not only on experimental design, but also on how to write the findings. The second book by Sadish, Cook and Campbell provides many kinds of experimental research designs. And I found this book particularly useful in experimental design, and I would recommend it to all master's or doctorate students. Lastly, these are some studies that have used quasi-experimental mixed method design. The first two and the last one are on educational research, while the third one is on evaluation research on the effectiveness of policy. In this study, Green, Hayward, and Navarro used time series data analysis to determine the effectiveness of changing the bar opening hours in reducing the amount of road accident. It's a very interesting paper to look at, and I will encourage you to have a look at this paper. So, I hope you have benefited from my short sharing on quasi-experimental research with single group. Do comment on this video. I love to hear from all of you. Thank you.